What's good, everyone? In this video, I will show you the beauty of coding. Now, introducing for the first section, we have variables. Now, variables are a common thing that you will see in vast amount of programming languages. I don't know one coding language that does not have variables. Variables is a basic component of every coding language. Let's go through this line by line and how this relates to variables and how by understanding all of this here, you will understand variables. So first off, on this first line, line 3, we have a list of fruits, but we have apple, banana, orange, and strawberry, and they are classified in this fruits variable up here. Now, if this variable were to be without this local, it's kind of bad practice to not put a local in front of a variable, so we're going to just bring that right back. Now, the line below it, line 4, we have the local selected fruit index, and this just shows the index of the current fruit selected, which is apple. So if we return back to this fruits list up here, we turn these into numbers, it's pretty much 1, 2, 3, 4, and this right here is a 1. So if we head back to that list, what is 1? 1 is apple. Now if we go down a couple lines to line 7, we see that the selected fruit index is getting added by 1. We can simplify this by doing plus equal 1, which is pretty much doing the exact same thing as this, but we're just making it shorter. So what we're really doing here is we're taking the selected fruit index, which is 1 up here, we set it to 1, and we're adding another 1 to it, and we're doing a 1 plus 1, which we all know that equals 2. We're going from apple to banana because we added that index of 1. And if we go down here to line 10, this is going to print the selected fruit index that we have selected. 2 is banana, so we should expect banana in the output to be printed at line 10. Now, if we go down a couple more lines, at line 13, we have a table.insert. Pretty much doing is we're taking this table of fruits, and we're inserting a new fruit, which in this case is pineapple. And if we go down to line 16, we see the selected fruit index. We're setting it to equal 5, which 5 would be pineapple if we add pineapple to this list of fruits, which we just did. Now, if we go down to line 19, what this is doing the exact same thing as we did at line 10, which is printing the selected fruit index. But as here, we should expect pineapple in the output when we're printing the selected fruit index of 5 here. Now, if we go down all the way to line 22, which is the last line of this code, we're just printing all the fruits. It started off as 1, 2, 3, 4 fruits, but then we added pineapple, which is our 5th fruit. So the expected output or the expected code that should be printed is apple, banana, orange, strawberry, and lastly, pineapple. And that explains the simplicity of variables, arrays, tables, a little bit of math. Let's move on to the next one. Moving on to the next one, we have loops. Loops are an essential part of programming when you need to do something multiple times in a row, but you don't want to repeat code. So what this is doing is it's manually printing 1, 2, and 3 in the output with a second delay between each of them. Now we have the 1, print 1, we wait 1 second, we have the print 2, and we wait another second, and then we have the print 3. I'm going to teach you a different way to do that. I'm also going to teach you another way to do that, but it's more complicated. But let's go down to the optimized version. As we see here, this is the optimized efficient version. What we're doing is we're using Roblox's built-in for loop. It's starting a loop at the number 1, and then the end value is 3. So we're going to cycle through this loop 3 times. So how do we know how many times we're going to go through this loop? Well, if you look at the end value divided by the increment value, that's how many times we're roughly going to go through this loop if the count isn't any different. And the end value divided by the increment is 3. So that means that we're going to go through this loop 3 times, and we're going to do essentially what this is doing, but in 4 lines of code. Now, I'm using task.wait because, as you'll learn a little bit later, but I'll tell you now, task.wait is a lot more consistent and reliable than regular wait method. Now, if we go down, here is another version, unnecessarily complex, but I just wanted to throw in that there are other ways to do loops besides the for loop. We still have the same increment, count, and the end values, but instead we're doing a while true do loop. And then when the count reaches the end value, instead of just stopping and going to this line here, like the for loop does, we need to initiate a break from the while true do loop, because if we don't do that, then it will go on forever. So that concludes loops. Let's go ahead and head over to the last section of the video. Here we have the last section of the video, which is best practices. Best practices is pretty much the best coding practices that you should employ when you code or program in your games. Nonetheless, they will help you, first off, use comments in your code and explain the functionality. This code for this script will teach you all the basic coding practices that you should use in your games when coding. Now, if we head below that line, we have players, as we talked about earlier, without the local variable and with the local variable. Now down here at line 10 and line 11, we have a variable that is improperly named and could be confusing, but down below that we have player, which is accurately representing what that variable is, and it's properly named and straightforward, as you can see. Below that line, at line 14, we have waiting until the player's character is successfully and fully loaded. Now here you see a word jogged right into the middle of a variable's value, which might be confusing. So in the event that this is not ready, we do this instead. Line 17, once we've gotten the player character, we try to find that humanoid in the player character, and most would just do a player.character dot humanoid, like as you see here. But this can cause some problems. What I would say is that to always use a wait for child. This will protect you in the case of edge cases, and utilizing wait for child is just a common practice that I would recommend you do no matter what. Now at line 20 and at line 21, we have the wait and task.wait, like we briefly mentioned when we was talking about loops. But pretty much what this means is that wait is unpredictable and not always accurate. Now below that, we get to the tips. At line 23, we get to the tips that I recommend you take from this video. Don't clutter your code. Keep it simple and avoid repeating your code. Second tip, name your functions and variables properly and clearly. We mentioned this a little earlier. Now name your functions and variables like you see up here. The X variable makes no sense in this context of players.local player, but below that, players.local player, this variable name makes sense in this context because it is referencing the player or correlated to the player. Last tip, organize your code and program what is necessary and exclude overcomplicated designs. This is an overcomplicated design because Roblox has a way simpler way of doing it, which is here. You want to exclude for the optimized versions usually. And that summarizes the beauty of coding from variables, loops, and common coding practices that you should use for your games. There's a lot of stuff I didn't touch on, like functions, but if you want a part 2 to this video, let me know down below in the comments and leave a like.